The washing room was dark, with only a tiny light blinking on the dryer. It made soft, clicking sounds as it spun. I could feel his warm breath on my neck as my hands grabbed the edge of the washing machine. The cold metal hurt my hands as his chest pushed against my back. His strong hand held my waist while his other hand moved up under my shirt, like he had wanted to touch me for so long. I could barely breathe. My legs felt weak as he moved closer and slower this time. I had to put both hands on top of the dryer just to keep standing. My shirt was pushed up to my chest. His skin felt so warm against mine. My breath made fog on the black plastic as I bit my lip hard. The hallway was silent, but the tension between us was louder than thunder. I didn't tell him to stop. I couldn't speak at all. When he moved just a little bit, making everything feel worse and better at the same time, I pushed back toward him. This wasn't supposed to happen, but here we were. I never planned any of this, but I stopped making plans long ago. He's my husband's closest friend. They've been buddies since they were young boys. I've been part of their story for 15 years: backyard parties, birthday celebrations, surprise visits that felt normal. He helped us move into this very house. He painted our bedroom upstairs with us. When I was sick with the flu 2 winters back, he brought me hot soup. So how did I end up here? Bent over a washing machine, choking on shame and guilt that I could still taste. I'm 38 years old. I have a home that most people would want. 2 beautiful children and a husband who still gives me a kiss on the cheek every morning. We look perfect from the outside: steady, predictable, and safe. But being safe costs you something when people stop really seeing you, and I became invisible a very long time ago. I didn't mean to notice how Mark would stay late after our parties. I didn't mean to feel butterflies when he helped me bring in groceries or when he leaned close behind me to open the fridge. It wasn't flirting on purpose. It wasn't something we planned. It was years of secret looks that always ended in silence, until that silence grew sharp teeth. That evening started just like any other night, a small party with friends. My husband drank too much wine and went to bed early. Mark stayed to help me clean up the mess. We were laughing together, just having fun with an old song playing on my phone. My hair was pulled up in a messy bun. I still wore the pretty dress I had put on for our guests. Then I turned around to give him a dish towel, but his hand didn't take the towel. Instead, it grabbed my wrist gently. He looked at me like he didn't want to do it but needed to, and I didn't pull away from him. The dryer made a loud beep. Somewhere upstairs, a wooden board creaked under someone's weight. I jumped with fear, and he held my waist with both hands to keep me steady. We froze like statues. He was still inside me, both of us shaking. "I should leave now," I said in a whisper. "I know," he replied softly, but neither of us moved an inch. We had kept our distance for so long that I forgot we were dancing around danger, until suddenly we weren't dancing anymore. We had fallen right into it. He left 5 minutes later. I didn't walk him to the door. I sat on the edge of the dryer afterward, my whole body shaking and feeling alive in places that had been numb for months. What would you do if the only person who made you feel real was someone you could never be allowed to miss? Because here's the hardest part: I wasn't shocked that it happened. Deep down inside, I had been waiting for it. And the second hardest part: I don't know if I want it to stop. That night, after I showered and put the clothes back in the washer just so no one would smell his scent on them, I stood in the hallway staring at my bedroom door. My husband was snoring loudly. I was still trembling, and I felt no regret at all. If you've ever lived under the same roof with someone and still felt completely invisible, You already understand how this happens. Please like and subscribe. We won't speak louder, just more truthfully. There's something about daily routines that makes you numb before you even notice it happening. Every morning I wake up at exactly 6:45. I set the coffee maker timer. I cook eggs, sometimes toast, sometimes fresh fruit if we have any. The kids stumble into the kitchen one by one, still sleepy. My husband sits at the table with his phone, barely looking up unless the news is playing. I move around all of them, not really part of the scene, just needed like furniture. I used to feel proud of this daily dance. I thought being the center that kept everything together meant I was important. But slowly, without any warning, it just became background noise. I became part of the walls and floors. That week after the washing room incident, I moved through my days exactly like I always did. Dropping kids at school, buying groceries, changing bed sheets on Thursday. Nobody noticed that anything had changed except for him and me. Mark showed up 2 days later with a spare part to fix the kitchen sink. He didn't call first. He never had to. My husband always said Mark was like family, so I opened the door for him. My hands were still wet and soapy from washing dishes. The morning sun was hitting the counter perfectly, and I couldn't look directly at his face. "Hey there," he said, his voice too quiet and careful. His eyes searched mine like he was waiting for me to slap him or slam the door shut. But I didn't shut anything. I just nodded and said, "The sink is still leaking water." He got down on his knees under the counter, while I stood awkwardly by the kitchen doorway. I should have gone upstairs to give him space, but I stayed there. I wiped the counter that didn't need cleaning, watching how his shoulders moved under his checkered shirt, listening to the familiar sound of his work boots on our tile floor. When he stood back up, he looked straight at me and didn't smile at all. "I've been thinking about you," he said, "more than I should have." I couldn't answer him. The words wouldn't come out. He stepped a little closer, but not too close. "I'm not going to push you," he added quickly. "But if you tell me it was a mistake, I'll believe you and walk away." My throat felt tight and dry. The room felt too hot. The fridge hummed behind me. A dog barked from 2 houses down the street. And all I could think was, why didn't it feel wrong? I whispered back, "I don't know what any of this was." He nodded slowly. "Okay, that should have been the end of everything. He could have left right then. I could have erased him from my thoughts forever." But he didn't leave. He went down to our basement to check the water pipes, just like he always did. Just like he belonged in our house, and that's what scared me the most, how normal it all felt. Mark has always been the helpful one. He's the guy who puts up our Christmas lights every year. The one who takes our trash cans to the curb when my husband forgets. He shows up when there's a leak, a loose stair railing, or a storm that knocks down a tree. He never asks for anything back, never crosses lines, never stays too long except now. Now I notice the way his fingers brush against mine when we pass each other in the hallway. Now I hear the silence between words that we never needed to say before. Now I remember exactly how his hand felt on the back of my neck, firm, warm, and sure of itself, in a room where nobody else even saw me. And the worst part is, I want more of it. I've been married for 16 long years. I met my husband when I was only 22 years old. We had 2 babies before I turned 30. We built this whole life together, one paycheck at a time, one decision at a time, one sacrifice at a time. And somewhere during all of that building, I stopped being touched like I was a woman. I became just logistics and planning. I became meals and schedules and laundry piles. But when Mark looked at me, really looked at me, I felt like I was still here. It's not that I don't love my husband anymore. I do, or I did, Or maybe I still do in the same way you love an old, comfortable sweater, familiar, cozy, but worn thin in all the places that used to matter most. But it had been over a year since my husband and I had even hugged each other without having a specific reason. So when Mark reached for me in that dim room, I didn't feel like I was betraying anyone. I felt chosen and remembered, like someone finally noticed I was more than just a mother and a wife. Like underneath all the patience and routines and silence, I was still someone worth wanting and desiring. I hate how true and real that sounds. The next night, I stood by our kitchen window after everyone had gone to sleep. The house was peaceful except for the dishwasher humming behind me. I stared out into our backyard, watching tree shadows dance in the gentle breeze, and I whispered to myself, "What am I doing?" Because I knew deep down that this wasn't over yet. It started with tiny things that seemed innocent. A text message at 9:17 at night while I was folding clean towels on the living room couch. "You left your hair clip in the washing room." I stared at my phone screen for almost a full minute before typing back, "I know." No smiley face, no joke, just three simple words that felt more naked and exposed than any photo could ever be. 3 days later, I opened our front door to find that little hair clip sitting on the entry table. He hadn't knocked or rung the doorbell. He just walked in the way he always did, casual, expected, safe. Only now nothing felt safe anymore. He barely glanced at me when he walked through to our garage, but his hand touched mine when he handed me a screwdriver to hold, and I felt that simple touch travel all the way down my spine. Mark started visiting our house more often, always with some good reason: a pipe leak, a loose door hinge, a package that got delivered to his place by mistake. He never stayed very long, but in the space between what we said out loud and what we kept silent, something big was changing. The first time things got really risky was on a Tuesday afternoon. My husband was out having lunch with his buddies. Mark came by to fix our back screen door. I brought him a cold glass of lemonade. When I handed him the glass, our fingers touched again. He didn't let go right away. Neither did I. "You look tired," he said softly, with concern in his voice. I just shrugged my shoulders. "I sleep fine." "That's not what I meant," he replied. I felt it then, his eyes on me like warm sunlight under my shirt. I backed up one step and turned toward the kitchen sink. My hands were shaking, and I had no good reason why. We didn't touch again for almost a whole week, but the silence between us got thicker and heavier, blooming with something we couldn't say out loud. I caught myself staring too long when he bent down to pick something up. I started brushing my hair before he came over, just in case. I wore soft, pretty sweaters instead of my old stained t-shirts. It wasn't really about looking beautiful. It was about feeling seen and noticed. He noticed everything. I could feel it in the way he stayed a little longer, the way his voice got deeper when we were alone together. He never said anything inappropriate or wrong, but every single word felt like a test that we were both about to fail. One evening after dinner, I went outside to take the trash to the curb. Mark was already in his driveway, dragging his own trash bin down to the street. "Late night for trash day," he said with a small smile. I nodded back. I forgot it was Thursday. We stood there in the quiet darkness. The smell of fresh grass and warm pavement hung in the summer air. The whole neighborhood was peaceful, with porch lights flickering on one by one. Then he said it very carefully, like he wasn't sure he had the right to speak. "I think about it all the time." I didn't pretend not to know what he meant. I just swallowed hard and whispered back, "Me too." Neither of us moved closer. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I added, my voice shaking with fear. He nodded, stepping just close enough that I could feel the warmth coming from his body. "Then we don't do anything else," he said. but neither of us stepped back or walked away. That night in bed beside my sleeping husband, I kept thinking about Mark's hand gripping that trash bin handle, the tension in his jaw, the pause in his breathing. I couldn't fall asleep at all. The tension got much stronger the next weekend during a group barbecue. All of us together, my husband flipping burgers on the grill, Mark handing me the metal tongs. Our hands brushed again, and this time it was completely on purpose. His thumb gently touched my knuckle as he passed me the utensil. I didn't pull away or flinch. I didn't step back. I held my breath so long that I felt dizzy and lightheaded. I caught him watching me when I bent down to grab a serving dish from the cooler. I caught myself watching the way he leaned in close to laugh at my husband's silly joke. The normal, everyday feeling of it all, with this dangerous risk poolsing just underneath the surface. When I brought out fresh lemonade again, I handed him a glass. He held it longer than necessary. His fingers touched mine for way too long. I saw my husband looking the other direction. I saw a neighbor walking past our yard. I saw the whole house full of people, and none of them knew our secret. It made me feel sick to my stomach, and it made me want it even more. The next day, I found a folded note hidden under our kitchen sink. It was just one sentence written in rushed, messy handwriting. "I'll be in the garage at noon." I didn't write back, but at exactly 1 minute past 12, I opened the door to our garage. He was already there, pretending to fix an old rake. His shirt was damp with sweat. His eyes found mine immediately, and neither of us spoke a word. For 30 long seconds, we just stood there staring at each other. The smell of hot dust and motor oil was thick in the stuffy air. I whispered, "I can't keep doing this anymore." "I know," he replied. "I feel like I'm falling apart." He stepped closer, then said, "Maybe stop pretending that you're not." He didn't touch me first. He waited and watched. We stood in that garage just feet apart with nothing but air and years of holding back between us. The sound of someone's lawn mower buzzed in the distance. My heartbeat pounded so loud in my ears. The heat from the overhead light bulb made the air feel heavy and thick, like a thunderstorm about to break. I stepped closer first. I don't know if it was curiosity, hunger, or just being exhausted from holding back for so long, but I moved toward him. I brushed past him like I needed to reach something on the shelf behind him. I didn't need anything at all. When our shoulders touched, he turned around slowly and carefully. His chest